Hey there and welcome to Scandal Steep. In recent weeks, something deeply unsettling has shifted in the public narrative surrounding Kanye West, but not because of another chaotic rant or bizarre fashion statement. This time, the loudest message isn't coming from Ye himself. It's coming from the silence of someone once always by his side, his daughter, North West. There haven't been any dramatic Instagram posts or cryptic TikToks. No interviews. No statements. Just a sudden, deafening quiet. North, who once stood proudly in her father's spotlight, has seemingly stepped away. And that quiet absence speaks volumes, possibly louder than any controversy Kanye has stirred over the past year. We've witnessed Kanye descend from provocative artist to unpredictable spectacle. From donning an outfit eerily reminiscent of Ku Klux Klan robes during an interview where he even joked about wanting to wear it in public to parading the streets with a nearly unclothed wife, the shock factor has only escalated. Most recently, he released a track titled Cousins, which stunned listeners by describing a disturbing childhood experience involving a male cousin. Even Kanye's most dedicated followers found themselves at a loss, unsure of how to process what they had just heard. And yet, through all of this, it's North's quiet withdrawal that has left people wondering if the emotional toll has finally gone too far. Once Kanye's little shadow clapping at fashion shows, dancing to his beats, proudly wearing Yeezy merch, North now seems to be retreating from that world. No more staged performances. No more front row seats. No more daddy's girl appearances. So, what does it mean when a 10-year-old distances herself from her father, especially when that father is one of the most talked about, controversial figures in modern pop culture? How does a child process watching her parent unravel in real time, with the whole internet watching? Let's be clear. Kanye has never shied away from controversy, especially in his music. But Cousins may have crossed a boundary even he hadn't dared approach before. This isn't a song built for charts or clubs. It's dark, unsettling, and emotionally raw. Over a gritty, experimental beat, Kanye details what he claims was a troubling incident from his childhood, one involving adult magazines and a confusing, intimate encounter with a cousin. The lyrics are jarring. The delivery? Even more so. The tone of the song carries a twisted innocence, as if told from a child's perspective. Combined with glitchy visuals and a surreal, dreamlike aesthetic, it feels more like a psychological spiral than a track. Listeners were left asking, was this a confession? A cry for help? A processing of trauma? Or simply another attempt to push boundaries? Adding another disturbing layer, Kanye implies that the same cousin from the story is now serving a double life sentence for a murder he committed as a teenager. It's not the first time Kanye has mentioned him. He briefly brought him up during a 2018 appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live, and he was also referenced in Kim Kardashian's 2020 documentary on prison reform. At the time, those mentions felt like vague nods to a troubled family history. But now, with Cousins, those fragments seem to form a larger, darker mosaic of unresolved trauma. Reactions have been mixed, to put it mildly. Some fans see the song as Kanye finally addressing deep emotional wounds. Others believe he's crossed the line by turning a highly sensitive subject into an artistic spectacle. One commenter harshly labeled it a new low, accusing Kanye of using his childhood trauma for shock value. Another pointed out that, given his erratic behavior and prior admissions of childhood sexual exposure, this revelation, tragic as it maybe, doesn't seem out of place. They argue it could explain some of his adult conduct, particularly his problematic relationship with sex and boundaries. But whether you interpret it as brave vulnerability or emotional exploitation, one thing is clear: the line between art and reality has blurred beyond recognition for Kanye West. And for North, who's navigating her own identity in a world that already scrutinizes her every move, that blur could be deeply damaging. For most public figures, being the centerpiece of a scandal can be a career-ending blow. For Kanye, controversy has become a second skin. His name trends more for antics than music, whether it's an unhinged interview, a problematic tweet, or a viral fashion choice. But amid the chaos, North remains conspicuously silent. And in today's hyperconnected world, where even children have smartphones and social media accounts, silence isn't ignorance, it's often a conscious act of self-preservation. At just 10 years old, North West is growing up in a digital universe where nothing is private and everything is archived. She's on TikTok. She has access to YouTube and Instagram and probably hears whispers at school. Even if she's shielded from the headlines, someone else will bring it up. Maybe a classmate mentions her dad's latest stunt. Maybe she stumbles upon a trending video. Either way, the confusion and embarrassment are hard to avoid. Once upon a time, North and Kanye were inseparable. She was his little muse. They wore matching outfits, attended events hand in hand, and appeared in cute, candid moments that softened Kanye's image. Fans adored their bond. It showed a tender side of Ye that was often hidden behind bravado and chaos. He once proudly talked about how she would wreck the furniture just to be close to him in the studio. She was a reflection of his joy, his legacy, and perhaps, his last anchor to normalcy. But those days seem to be fading. North isn't as visible in Kanye's orbit anymore. On the rare occasions she does appear, the atmosphere feels different. Less joy, more tension. People close to the family suggest that North is slowly pulling back from her father, not dramatically, but deliberately. No big speeches, no social media statements, just a young girl quietly choosing space over spectacle. And honestly, who could blame her? Imagine trying to understand why your father showed up to a public interview dressed like a Klan member. Imagine trying to explain that to your peers. It's not just weird or uncomfortable, it's deeply traumatic. Even those who once defended Kanye's antics are now starting to question whether he's causing real harm, not just to himself, but to those closest to him. Then there's Bianca Censori, Kanye's new wife or partner, depending on the day. Bianca is a model and architect whose relationship with Kanye has become a media circus, largely because of how the couple chooses to present themselves. It's not so much Bianca's identity that's controversial, it's her wardrobe, or lack thereof. Every time she steps out with Kanye, it becomes headline news. Not because it's glamorous or avant-garde, but because it's often shockingly revealing. She's been seen wearing sheer tights without pants, completely see-through dresses in public settings, and even confined in bizarre glass enclosures in full view of cameras and onlookers. To Kanye and Bianca, it's performance art. To North, it's a living nightmare. Think about how that must feel to a child. Walking through an airport with your dad while his partner is practically naked. Knowing people are filming. Knowing your classmates will see it. Knowing your mom, who's no stranger to racy fashion herself, is still disturbed by it. According to insiders, Kim Kardashian has been deeply concerned about the impact all of this has on their children. She's reportedly appalled by the lack of boundaries and how Kanye's choices, particularly in regard to Bianca, are shaping their kids' emotional worlds. Kim once said she still hopes to see glimpses of the man she fell in love with, the visionary, the father, the partner, but those glimpses are becoming harder to find. Kim isn't just reacting out of bitterness or jealousy, her worries are rooted in protecting her kids from a life they didn't ask for. She's been trying to maintain some sense of stability for them, even as Kanye continues to spiral into ever more unpredictable behavior. She's reportedly drawn a firm line when it comes to North being around Bianca, especially when Bianca is dressed in a way that Kim considers inappropriate for children. But it's not just about clothing. It's about what all of this represents: the loss of innocence, the invasion of privacy, the normalization of chaos. It's about a little girl being forced to grow up too fast because the people around her can't or won't set healthy boundaries. Some sources close to the Kardashian West circle say that North has started requesting more time with her mother and less with her father. Not because she doesn't love him, but because being around him now feels confusing, maybe even unsafe in an emotional sense. That's a heavy reality for a child to carry, feeling torn between the love she has for her dad and the discomfort she feels watching him self-destruct in slow motion. And it's not just North. The younger kids Saint, Chicago, and Sam are also growing up under this spotlight. But it's North, being the eldest and most aware, who feels the weight first. She's the one most likely to understand the memes, the headlines, and the jokes. She's the one people tag in TikToks. She's the one whose friends ask questions at school. There's something quietly tragic about watching a child retreat from a parent, not because they're absent but because they're too present in the wrong ways. Kanye may be physically there, showing up at events and claiming his place in his kids' lives, but emotionally, the ground is shaky. Every outburst, every provocative move, every cryptic song, each one chips away at the trust and safety children rely on. The irony is, Kanye has always framed himself as a protector. When he publicly raged at Kim about North being on TikTok, he claimed it was because he didn't want his daughter exploited. And yet, in some twisted contradiction, He's now the one dragging her into a world that exploits her by proximity, whether through hyper-sexualized public appearances, disturbing artistic content, or unfiltered confessions to millions of strangers. There's no easy fix to this. Therapy might help. Boundaries could help. A true reckoning with his trauma might help. But until Kanye is willing to step out of the performance and face the very real damage being done, the people around him, especially his children, are left to pick up the emotional debris. And North, whether she realizes it or not, may be leading the way in doing just that. Her silence, her step back, her apparent decision to disappear from her father's spotlight, these aren't just signs of discomfort. They're acts of self-protection. They're the instincts of a girl trying to preserve the pieces of her childhood before they're swallowed by someone else's chaos. The world will keep watching Kanye West. Some will continue to admire his genius. Others will shake their heads at his antics. But North? She's no longer clapping along. She's no longer in the front row. She's quietly finding her own way, and maybe, just maybe, that's the most powerful statement of all.